Namaste and good afternoon, everyone. I'm Anjali Tiwari, a general member at CHUVA. I'm pursuing my bachelor's degree in law from Kathmandu School of Law. Currently, I am in fourth year. Today, I'd like to welcome you all to the online expert session on Youth for Generation Equality Forum campaign that is led by YUVA in collaboration with YPR Nepal and Visible Impact. Before getting started, I'd like to explain what actually GF campaign is. Generation Equality Forum is a global gathering to accelerate the quality, the opportunity, and leadership in every girls and women worldwide. So it is basically convened by UN Women and co-hosted by the government of Mexico and France. So what actually Yuva and along with the YPR Nepal and Visible Impact is trying to do is to localize the GF campaign here in Nepal so that we can achieve the high level commitment from the government of officials. So there are there are six action coalition themes in GF campaign, and we are focusing in one of those, that is bodily autonomy and SRHR. And under bodily autonomy and SRHR, there are four action points. The first action point was on comprehensive sexuality education, and we have already had an episode of online expert session on that. So now we will be talking on the fourth action point of GF campaign that relates with the feminist-led organization, movement, or women human rights defenders who are working for the promotion of right to bodily autonomy and SRHR. So before starting, I'd like to give a brief description about what actually feminist-led organization or movement or women human rights defenders means as per GF campaign. So feminist-led organization and movement refer to the activist, women human rights defenders and group who work from the perspective of feminism and from the perspective of women rights, and they try to have their vision to promote the rights of women, girls, all trans, intersex, and non-binary people's human rights. So they focuses on the human rights of as a whole people that belong to women, girls, trans, intersex, non-binary people, and they also try to work and push for the structural changes in the society and try to address the issues that are at its root. And also, apart from that, they also work on the issues that are contested and marginalized. So these have been the brief or say the broad explanation about what feminist-led organization actually means. So we have our speaker today representing the same. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce our today's speaker, a very special person, Miss Medha Sharma. Miss Medha is the current president at Visible Impact. Visible Impact is an organization working towards every girl, every woman, and every youth. And she has been closely working with our Yuva family, as she was our former program coordinator, as well as she was our former vice president. So we are really lucky to speak with her today. I'd also like to add upon her academic qualifications. She has also received the International Master's degree in Public Health from Hebrew University, Jerusalem, and she has also represented Nepal in many of the working committees of national and international forums. And we cannot forget her representation in the ICPD Plus 25 Summit, be it the working committee of CEDAW on the sixth periodic review, and many more. So summing up, Ms. Medha Sharma has a great experience of more than 10 years in non-profit sector in the areas of advocacy, grant management, advocacy, research, gender, and development. So the team Yuva welcomes you, Medha ma'am. Thank you for accepting our invitation despite your busy schedule.
Thank you so much, Anjali. Thank you so much for having me here. And I'm always, I feel really honored to be back home. That's whenever you invite. So thank you for this invitation.
Thank you so much, ma'am. We're really delighted to have you and to hear from you regarding the feminist organization that you are leading and the movement as a whole. So, without any further ado, I'd like to jump into the major highlight of today's session. So, I'll be asking you some of the question that relates with the feminist-led organization movement. You can explain in the point with the leadership you do from the visible impact. So I'll be starting with a little bit of background. Like we all know that the women's rights, women's choices, bodily autonomy, as well as the self-determination over our own body, it is the fact that it must be protected and upheld. However, yet we also know that everywhere around the world, every girls, every woman, every adolescent girls have been facing and have been the victim of persistent gender inequality and the consequences it brings, as well as they have been the victim of sexual violence, gender based violence, and not only that, they have also been victimized with the harmful practices like early marriages, and we cannot forget the female genital mutilation. So, from this perspective, we all know the ground reality of the women's issues. Like can you explain from your experience like how you being a leader in a visible impact has been addressing this situation, and what actually is the situation of feminist led organization like yours in Nepal?
Thank you, Anjali. I think that's a wonderful background and context setting, and that gives a lot of insight to what we are going to discuss. Uh, so, if talking about the women-led organizations or feminist organizations, there are a few perspectives. First, whether people want to be tagged as feminist organizations or not, or whether an individual wants to be tagged, right? People prefer to be called women activists rather than feminists, So people, even men can be feminists. Anyone can be feminist, right? You don't have to be a woman to be a feminist. But then that concept, that ideology, there's a slight gap even among activists who work for women. So they want to be tagged as women activists. Secondly, what is the magnitude, what is the depth of these organizations? In Nepal, I think the women-led movement is quite strong. In terms of the organization's capacity, in terms of that they have been able to come together. The main motive of the organization might be different, but the vision is same. So though there might be differences, I have seen women-led organizations, feminist organizations come together when it's time for like actual advocacy. So having said that, however, there are certain gaps, and like and one of the another most important part is how many organizations do we have? Like how much have they been able to cover geographically or issue based, right? So there I see a lot of gaps still. Like the organizations have not been able to reach that depth. We have cream organizations who are representing multiple issues at a time. Like, for example, visible impact, we work mostly on SRHR, but we are working on other issues related to leadership and young people and girls and women and like cross-cutting sectors, people with disabilities, and so on. But that's one part. I mean, it's good to have that intersectional lens. But are there issues that we are missing? Are we able to reach those on the furthest? I think these sort of gaps are existing if you look at the overall national feminist movement in Nepal.
Yeah, so I was expecting the same. Like we all jointly come and gather when there is like 16 days activism, but then we also see the gaps and the drawbacks we keep on getting when we call ourselves feminist. Like I individually, when I speak about anything that relates with women, I get a serious judgment that, oh my God, you are a law student. Okay, too much feminism. I'll stay away from you. So this sort of judgment and this sort of comment has been passed, and I know it has been really difficult for you as a whole, and along with you other organization that is led by women or say who believes in the feminism. So how can you explain that how well do you receive support from other external environment? Like even in an individual life, it is really difficult to believe in feminism. And I can I can imagine like it is really difficult for you as well as other feminist organizations. So how well do you receive support from other external environment, be it government, be it other CSOs or other organization or other feminist organization as well? So how well do you receive support?
Um, yeah, I think you raised another very important point. And you also said that there's two dimensions to it. One is as an individual and then as an institution, right? So as an individual, I think even today, most of the human rights defenders, like for example, if I have a program on safe abortion, let's say, and then we are providing sensitization to media. So if I'm at home, and then if somebody asks, okay, where are you going? I would probably say I'm going to a program, or I would maximum say I'm working with young people. I would probably not say that, okay, I'm going on a program related to safe abortion. So we still have that judgmental attitude from the community, from families, and we try to keep that under cover. And then when we meet, like we women rights defenders, human rights defenders come together to a program, we are openly talking about it, but then we're not being able to take that at home. I did my course on women's studies, and I still remember our professor said, "You guys are going to be frustrated when you start having that gender and feminist lens," and I can totally relate to it because you see the differences, but then there's so little that you can act on it on your daily life. So we are talking mostly about other women. We want to support other women, but how much are we able to bring that change within ourselves? That's one part. One is from our side, and how much is the community already capacitated and sensitized to accept human rights defenders. In Nepal, we do not have as such issues like in many other countries working on issues like safe abortion, menstruation, or family planning. There are other countries where the situation is worse. But what I'm trying to say is there's still gaps in Nepal and challenges for human rights defenders in those sense. And even institutionally, if you look, if there's an organization working for safe abortion, for example, or with sexual and gender minorities, then today is still difficult. There's still chances of being stigmatized and being judged and so on. So those are the things that is happening in the community level. From the government side, because it's already in the constitution and everything, so there is support, there is willingness. But there are definitely capacity gaps and gaps in sensitizations, which is leading to some sort of disruptions and lack of coordination in these kind of issues. So governments, they are supportive, but all this bureaucratic process and the steps that it takes and so on is kind of a little bit of hurdle. Otherwise, I haven't faced a lot of like lack of support from the government. However, working in the community as a woman, I've faced several hurdles, being being of equal capacity but not getting that position, being it in a meeting and people perceiving you as sole note taker. And I'm sharing experience from few years back when I used to be younger, and I know when you are youth and when you are women, that brings you to double trouble. People think that you're just for note takers and you do not have capacity. People have that perception about you. They try to push you. They try to mansplain during the meetings. Starting from those small works. People, I'm at the podium, and then they're like, for example, three men, and I'm a woman, and then the moderator would say, okay, sir, raised really good points, or somebody from the audience would say, oh, it was really nice listening to sirs. So that's like, I'm not sure whether they did not like what I spoke, or saying sir is like, they are missing out madams or other sexual and gender minorities. So, whenever there's praise, it's like, oh, our sirs did a really good work. So there have been such hurdles in my professional life that I have faced. So we are improving, but then, still there's gaps that we need to fulfill.
Yeah, I completely relate with your answer. And I think that since our upbringing, we are taught like that. Like whenever we go to hospital, we if there's also a female doctor, then we call her nurse. Like we do not give her that entitlement of her studies and anything like that. So maybe it is our social norm, it is our socialization process, as well as the upbringing we are brought up. So I think it all surrounds with our social norms, that what we are going to face in today's life. Like, so I feel that. And so I'd like to move on to another question, like you leading visible impact, and visible impact having its core area with safe abortion, family planning, and other issues relating to body autonomy and SRHR. Like, could you list out some of your goals, some of your targets, and the role of visible impact that are trying to address on the women's issues? Like, briefly, could
Yeah.
you explain on it?
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, so for us, we believe that a person's reproductive health, especially in context of Nepal, like a women and girls, reproductive health is very closely linked with her empowerment. So that's why we are mostly working on sexual and reproductive health and rights. And as such, we take few approaches. One is to generate social champions at the provincial and local level, because we need social champions from the ground itself who can talk about these issues, who can raise voices about these issues. So we do mentorship model with them. We hire them for a year and continuously support them on different issues. So for each issues, we have different social champions, and they're continuously advocating with their local governments, with their provincial governments for better access to sexual and reproductive health and rights for young people. That's one where we are working for the advocacy, and also we're linking these ground level experiences with advocacy at the regional and international levels, and to bring those sort of policy change, and then as their follow-up mechanism. So it's running in cycles. So besides that, we do campaignings and sensitization sessions with policymakers. We have media fellowship programs. We do digital campaigning and such, and we also do leadership training with young people. So we often try to take holistic approaches, and so it's leadership as well as being able to advocate, and as well as empowering the young people. So these are some of the approaches that we have been taking here at Visible Impact.
Yeah. So my next question was also related with the how your organization, as a feminist-led organization, engage more young people like us. And I think you have somehow answered as already. So
Mm.
if you would like to add on that very particular question, then you can, or else I'll move to the last question for today.
No, there isn't much to add, but through this session, I would also like to say anyone who's listening to this, any young person who who is looking for that platform, that launch pad, looking for that niche to enter into this development sector, or who are working for women and girls out of passion, you can always check out our Visible Impact Facebook page, and you can also try to identify who is the nearest social champion we have. You can come and join and be our social champion as well. Yeah, just join our Facebook page and we put details there.
Yeah, to all those young people listening to this session, Visible Impact has a lot of opportunity for us to engage in their advocacy and be part of women rights movement. So, at last, I like to have a question that we have been talking about since 2 years, like the devastated pandemic, COVID-19 pandemic. We cannot forget that, and on top of that, women's issues, which was already marginalized, which was already vulnerable, has been an unequal impact due to COVID-19. I think you do believe on this. So how,
Mm.
as an organization, a feminist-led organization like yours, Visible Impact, has tried to work and mitigate on the impact of COVID-19 that relates with the women's issues, and especially you can answer in the field of SRHR and body autonomy.
Yeah. So COVID was, hard on us, like all of us, and many reasons. And one thing that I realized looking back is, there's so much we could have done as women-led organization or alliances that we have, but we did very little. The development sector is often criticized for this, that they did not come up as they could have been. But we had our own drawbacks and challenges, and such things. But at Visible Impact, we thought initially that power to information was the most important thing, because COVID was so new. So we did digital campaigns to inform, especially young people, about COVID, and translated it into local languages. We made IT materials, we made radios, jingles, and such stuff, and like distributed it into various provinces in local languages. So that's one part where we work. And secondly, we try to support female on the front line, be it doctors or nurses or other health workers with menstrual cups, because there was all this issue of not being able to change PPE adequately and having to, wear it for hours with problems of leakages with sanitary pads. So we supported those menstrual cups to female health workers and the front line. And similar issues were also in other places like female shelter homes or female working in carpet factories or urban slums who would often be overlooked, by the development agenda because they are living in the urban areas. But however, their challenge were worse because they had lost employment and such stuff. So we supported them with dignity kits. And at the organizational level, we have also done impact assessment of COVID. And one important point which we could do, staying even at home, was keep the voices and advocacy for sexual and reproductive health and rights continuously. So we still try to link these experiences at the local level in Nepal with regional and international level. We also worked with like governments when they created the SRHR guideline to communicate those information. So we were doing bits and pieces to support young people to realize their sexual and reproductive health and rights, but we could have definitely done more.
Yeah, so it was really wonderful listening to you. And we all know that COVID-19 pandemic have hit us personally as well. So it was all you could do, and it was really great that you in an individual as well as organization level you have done. So thank you so much, ma'am. It was really interesting and amazing to hear from you. And I'm certain that the objective we Yuva team had while preparing for online expert session on feminist lead organization have really outstandingly met by you. And thank you for providing your valuable time with us. I can't wait to meet you in real and listen to you, the initial phase of yours while starting an organization, while working as an SRHR and SRHR activist. So I can't wait to meet you in real, ma'am. And thank you so much, ma'am. And I think we'll meet soon.
Yeah, thank you, Anjali. You have been an expert moderator as well. I really loved your way of articulating things. And yes, definitely we can do like another session on that experience. But I would like to end by saying, because we talked about women movement, and one important point that I should have perhaps said earlier is the gap between women-led organization and then young youth generation, and that's the idea behind Generation Equality Forum as well. So even in Nepal, the women movement is very strong, but that cohort of women activists are now slowly retiring, right? And then young people, young women activists are very few in numbers, and there's that disconnect. So I think coming forward, like in the future, we all should work together to bring that connection, bringing young women feminists on board, because otherwise we will lose all those years of experience and hard work that our senior feminists have been doing. So yeah, with that message, I would like to thank you as well, and it was wonderful talking to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. We'll meet soon, and bye.
Bye bye.